Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 68 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, February 26th, and we are going to talk some basketball today. We're running out of teams to cover, but we're not out yet. We've got some teams that are we've got some boys teams that are regional champions and have another week of basketball left to play. We've got one girls team that is a sectional champion and has a super sectional game to play tomorrow night, and so we're going to focus on those clubs. Of course, Mike. We decided in our pre-production meeting, and we actually did have a conversation prior to recording about what order we wanted to go in. We're not going to decide this after the record button has been pressed for a change, and
That's
we're
that's
gonna.
that's uncharted territory. That's
It
uncharted.
really is. It feels weird. It feels weird to be so prepared. But we're going to talk about Neoga's girls first because the Neoga girls are one game away from a return trip to the state tournament. We'll get to St. Anthony, T-Town, and Altamont boys. We'll certainly get to them.
Talking
And
about the team in red,
I
baby.
don't. Yeah, I don't. We did that last week. I feel like we've
Well,
done.
that's a good thing that we keep bringing them up every week.
I feel. Yeah. Well, you keep bring. Don't say we bring them up. This
Oh,
is not my idea.
hey, they traveled to that Northland and Mackey Arena, first win in gosh, I don't know how long.
Yeah, well, they said, yeah, it's first time that
Woodson never won there as a
right,
player.
right.
None of the Indiana players have won there till yesterday.
Yeah, we'll okay. We'll
I looked for an Ohio State shirt, but I couldn't find one.
there's Ohio State stinks and Illinois stinks, and I don't want to talk about either one of them.
All
Okay,
right, okay, that's
let's
fine.
just let's just forget about them. Yeah, girls first, though, ladies first, and again, Neoga got the sectional championship this week. They defeated Tuscola in the title game over at KZ. It was a good it was a good week of basketball over there at KZ as far as the competitive nature of the games. Neoga defeated Tri County in the semifinals by 13, and then St. Anthony and Tuscola played a really competitive sectional semifinal that St. Anthony, for much of the game, I felt personally like they had it won, and then Tuscola just kind of never went away and kept making runs when they got down by double digits, and the run they made in the fourth quarter ended up getting them the victory. They beat St. Anthony by 4. And then Neoga turned around and got Tuscola by 6 points in the championship game. Um, Tuscola's good. They guard hard. They're very difficult to play against, but they're also very physical. And that allowed Neoga to shoot a lot of free throws in the championship game, and Neoga made their free throws. Tuscola missed a buttload of free throws. Tuscola missed 17 free throws in that game. Okay, and they lost by 6. So you do the math. If
No,
they shoot them even reasonably well, then they win. But you know what? And Neoga will attest to this from their run to state last year. You don't make a deep run the postseason without getting a break or two. And that was one of those breaks that you get. The fourth ranked team in the state couldn't make a free throw to save their lives, and you took advantage of it, made yours, and now you're playing Christopher tomorrow night at the Inlow Center for a chance to go to Bloomington later on in the week.
yeah, I was, and Greg and I heard the end of that game. We were on our way home from the Teutopolis Painted game, and
Uh-huh.
it was a weird game. Um, Pena came out and hit some shots early, and I think T-Town led at the quarter, but T-Town's second quarter, they were like 1 of 11 from the field. They couldn't score.
Yeah.
Um, Kaylee Nieberg was getting touches down low, but she was getting shots up and double and triple. There was a lot of heavy traffic,
Mm-hmm.
and the ball just would not go in. And it's shots, yeah, there's a lot of traffic. Was there some bumping going on? Well, yeah, there's bumping on both ends, but it's shots that, T-Town doesn't usually go 1 of 11.
Mm-hmm.
Emily Conkle, she it wasn't real noticeable that she was hurting, Couple times early in the game, the defender, she gave her the old okey doke and went to the hole and made some things happen and looked pretty good. I mean, I would have guarded her hard in the backcourt to make her, put on high stress miles on her foot, but they didn't. They almost face guarded Molly Ruhal. There was no help from her. They were not going to let her get open looks on threes because she
Yeah.
can shoot it. And I think she got one off, and they just kind of took her out of any. She wasn't a help offensively because she wasn't getting chances to shoot. And the Gibson girl, gosh, and I can't remember her first name now to save my
Courtney.
life. Huh? Courtney
Courtney.
had a great first half. Really played well. Um, Probably kept them in the ball game. They come out third quarter, and it was kind of the same thing. There wasn't much difference. And then right at the end of the third quarter, this girl from Paris, Aldi was her name.
Yes.
Paris was trying to go for one, and she had it at about 24 feet, and clock was running down, and she was kind of dribbling, and she just threw it, banked it in. And she was more surprised than anybody because we're kind of setting up in that crow's nest, and we're looking down at her, and I mean, she looked like she just won the lottery. So that put T-Town down 12 to start the fourth quarter. And you're thinking, man, I just don't know if they can come back. And I'll tell you what, they buckled her up. And Miss Nieberge, I think 8 of 8 in the fourth quarter, a couple threes, twos. She couldn't miss. She wasn't playing as much back to the basket. They got her out on the perimeter. She made some things happen. Um, T-Town picked up the pressure, got full court press, and they really weren't creating turnovers off the full court press as much as Payne would come down and just chuck up a shot. I mean, it's like, hey, you're up 9. There's 4 minutes to go. Maybe, hey, Mr. Clock, boom, some girl would throw one up and miss it. And then they'd go down, and they had it 4, and Payne kind of was rushing and was throwing a lob to this Chatsworth girl who's their big post player who was, I don't think she missed a free throw all night. I think she was like 8 of 8 or something. But they threw her a lob and it was too far. T-Town was going to get the steal. And the girl was kind of twisting to go up and grab it and kind of stumbled. And they called a push on Courtney Gibson. And the official, I didn't feel was in a good position to make the call. I mean, I'm not saying that changed the game, but T-Town would have had the ball down with a chance to cut it to 2 or 1. And the Chatsworth girl made her free throws, and maybe that took it from 2 back to 4. But her and this Byers girl were like, as a team, Payne, I think, was 16 of 18 from the line in the fourth quarter.
Uh-huh.
And those two were like 15 of 16 combined. And they just kept making, and with them making free throws like they did, they were maybe 23 of 26 as a team for the game, something like that. T-Town was still in the game and shot poorly at times. But,
Yeah.
they made that run. They really did. They made a run at him. And he didn't even just said, jump on my back. She didn't miss. She buried
29.
a couple threes, just pull up jumpers with a girl from beyond the arc. And you just kept thinking, oh, they're going to do it. And then this Byers or this Chatsworth would go to the line, bang, bang, and
Yeah.
just, the embers were still burning. Oh, got a chance, spark. And then those two would just throw a bucket of water on the fire. And, then Payne turned around and got beat by Paris pretty handily, which
Yeah.
surprised me. I guess I saw Paris play Effingham, and I'm not going to say I was overly impressed. Effingham did a lot of things that bothered them. But, it was tough to see T-Town just lose the way they did, just have that quarter where they couldn't shoot. It was just, it was painful. And the ball just roll off, and they'd get a good look, and it'd roll off the rim. And you're like,
Yeah.
and they were still only down like 4 at the half, 5 at the half. It wasn't like killer. So I don't know. Hate to see their season in that way. But yeah, they battled, man. They battled, and that fourth quarter
Yeah.
was fun. I was having a hard time keeping up with the stats.
Kaylee Nieberge ended her career with 29 points in that game. Finishes her senior season with, by my count anyway, and 600 even, which is
Really,
a
pretty good senior season.
pretty good little piece of work. Almost 19 points per game, and again, Conkle gutting it out. You don't know exactly what she was feeling, but I'm
And
guessing.
you could tell in the warm ups she didn't like to push off her left foot and jump. She didn't like to shoot a right hand layup very well, and you could tell. But really, once the game started going, she she gutted it out, and you didn't notice that she was hurting. To be honest, during the game, and
Yeah,
I give her kudos for that. Chloe Probst come in, and she hadn't played really any minutes until that game. She actually came in, I think, in the third quarter for Molly Ringwald and played pretty well. I mean, she was, it was just one of those things where they got shorthanded physically at the wrong time of the year.
a lot of seniors on that T-Town team.
Yes,
They're graduating. They're graduating Nieberge, of course, but then Gibson and Conkle, your second and or your Conkle, your second leading scorer. Gibson, a big drop down as far as the scoring, but still, another contributor. Really, when you look at what's coming back, they're going to have a lot of open spots to fill and roles to fill.
right. And it's a kind of a turnover. They've got some kids. The Preps girl will be back. The Rue Hall, I think one was a freshman, one was a sophomore. They got a
Yeah,
couple other young kids that saw Summer Wall. I mean, um, she's got to learn just to not be quite as aggressive defensively. She's got some quickness. She can do some things. She's good going to the hole. Um, and I think it could be a year where maybe next year they're not quite as strong, but they're coming again.
yeah, yeah. I
We'll
mean,
have to see.
26-6 this year, and again,
Yeah,
you're when with your leading scorer graduating. I mean, those are big shoes to fill, but I don't know, they had to replace their leading scorer from a year, the previous season too, right?
they've had to do it a couple times. Yeah, they tend to reload.
Uh, I just
That and Whitey. One thing that record 26-6. They didn't play Christ Our Rock schedule either.
we'll get to that.
Oh, okay. I couldn't help throw
We'll
that one.
we'll get to that. And I want to return to Neoga, but St. Anthony, we should spend a little time on the St. Anthony girls as they saw their season come to an end, and that semifinal against Tuscola. You know, um, you talk about senior seasons ending in a kind of a painful way. You know, Lucy Fearday fell out of that game. Friend of the show, Lucy Fearday.
Yeah.
She picked up consecutive fouls on the same trip down the floor, and
We heard that. We just were literally rolling into the station when that happened.
it was so fluky. The first one, someone comes and throws up a shot, weak side rebound, gets tipped around a little bit. Lucy's actually got her back to the play. She's facing the basket, and the ball's behind her. She just puts her hands up like this, and one of the Boyer girls, the younger one from Tuscola, just kind of jumps up into this arm, gets the shot to go, and gets the foul called. Then she misses her and one, gets her own rebound, tracks it down on the baseline, tries to drive baseline. Lucy's trying to cut her off, gets called for a blocking foul, and that's it. That's fouls 4 and 5 for her. She's done, and that was all while the game was sort of
They were still leading,
it.
weren't they?
I've got it. I've got a blow by blow written down here. St. Anthony had leads of 11 and 12 in that game. They led by 11 with under 2 minutes to go before halftime. Tuscola scores 6 straight to close the half to get it manageable. St. Anthony gets it up to 12 early in the third quarter, but Tuscola closes the period on an 11-2 run, then ties it up almost immediately in the fourth quarter. But still, then nobody scores for a while. But then St. Anthony goes up 41-35, minute and a half to play. St.
That's when
Anthony,
Mr. Sapp may have told me in the car, I think it's over.
but I'll tell you what, they missed a bunny. They really did. They missed a layup that would have made it an 8-point game right after under a minute and a half to go, and they never scored again. Um, the that's when that whole sequence I talked about happened.
Yeah.
So she scores 4 points on one trip down the floor to go from down 6 to down 2. Then St. Anthony comes down, gets fouled, misses the front end of a 1-and-1. They get it. Tuscola gets it to the Woodard girl. She takes it to the basket, ties it at 41. Then St. Anthony gets fouled again. It's double bonus at this point. They miss 2 free throws. And then the Woodard girl makes another shot. St. Anthony gets called for a travel with just under 7 seconds to go, which I will say, I don't know how you can call traveling when nobody has the basketball. The ball was bouncing around and a travel was called against St. Anthony. I thought that kind of stunk, but at that point, you're kind of in desperation time anyway, because even if you don't call that travel, there's probably going to be a jump ball. I don't even remember what the possession arrow was. But then on the inbounds play on the sideline, it was a busted play defensively for St. Anthony, and Tuscola got a layup as the as the time ran down, and that was it. So it's just a nightmare 90 seconds of game time for St. Anthony to
Yeah.
close that
A
one
lot of
out.
things went against you. And again,
But that's what we were
you
talking
have
about,
trips to
right?
the line, and that's how Payne won. They just kept making free throws, and
Mm-hmm.
T-Town just, they one of those girls missed the front end. That's momentum they can get in there, but they just kept burying. I mean, they were, I want to say 14 to 16 from the line in the quarter.
Well, and listen, I mean, I know they're free throws, but when you consider the situation, you consider the moment, like it's not easy to do. Just get up there and be automatic about it because,
No,
like, I mean, it's very easy for things to start spinning in the head. Now, listen, I never shot any free throws in a sectional or any other meaningful game to speak of, but I can imagine, I mean, I know how nervous I would be, but that's what makes it so impressive when kids close out a game hitting big free throws like that. Really says a lot for the mental toughness side of things. In Neoga made their free throws in the fourth quarter of that game with Tuscola. They got a bunch of them because both teams were in the double bonus, and Tuscola just couldn't ever get going. Couldn't ever get going on the free throws, and Neoga made them. Sydney Richards made a bunch. She's just, she's almost automatic. Her
they won. They'll end up winning by 6, right?
yeah, end up winning by 6. So you consider again 17 missed free throws for Tuscola.
Now they have Christopher. Is that right?
Yeah, Christopher and Christopher is a team that they've got an outstanding individual player.
Okay.
They've got a junior named Amaya Hargrove.
That's Anthony Hargrove's daughter, former Ram.
Yeah, I mean, she's legit. She's 6'2". She's again a junior. She scores 25 points a game. She can score a lot of different ways. She's a good shooter, right? Like she can hit from anywhere, but she can take it to the basket. Um, you know, she gets a lot of rebounds from the film I've seen, from the tape I've seen. She doesn't necessarily have like some fantastic instinct for rebounding. I think that it's a
Big.
circumstantial thing for her. Yeah, she's big. She's not I wouldn't call her a phenomenal defender. I'm not trying to downplay the girl. Trust me. She's probably going to be about as good a player as Neoga has seen all year. I mean, because Grace Nelson is a fantastic athlete and a good scorer, but Grace Nelson's given up like 4 or 5 inches on this girl. You know what I'm saying? With all the same athleticism. So that's a tough one. It's not going to be easy, but the one thing I will say is that Neoga's got a coaching staff that knows how to get their kids ready for games like this, and plus, I think that coaching staff has been reached out to by a lot of people, with their opinions about what to do. People who have seen this Christopher team, which has got 29 wins on the year. They're a salty bunch.
Sounds like maybe the 618's not really a fan of Christopher.
Well, it could be. I don't have any details about who any of these people are, but I will say that it sounded like Kim's phone was ringing not long after she secured the victory over Tuscola. Neoga, by the way, that's their 32nd win of the season. School record was 29 last year when they went to state, and so they're
They're
building on
setting the
that.
bar pretty high for future teams.
Well, I'll tell you, it's people really need to. I've been trying to preach this to anyone who will listen, and that's the school Neoga size and with the history that they have athletically, like you really need to soak this in and enjoy it because it just doesn't happen very often.
This
And
record may not be broken. Is that what you're
yeah,
saying? Kind of a Cy
well,
Young type record.
I'm just saying it could be a while, it could be next year. I don't know, but but I wouldn't bet on it. It's just they've had a couple of really special groups come through, and you can't take that kind of thing for granted. Just like, I mean, St. Anthony's girls are in the middle of a fantastic run for their program, and and I hope that those fans are not taking that for granted either, and they understand how special it is.
Right.
With
I agree.
Lucy, she her final game of her career, she probably is not one she's going to want to think about a lot. It wasn't a great game for her, but a fantastic career, of course, and I hope people understood how special it was to see a player like that in this entire group. I mean, Nancy Ruhal is going to be fun to watch for 3 more years, and Vonderheide had such a great leap forward. Stacy Vonderheide had such a great leap forward this season, and I mean, Faber's a fun player to watch too. On the defensive end, also, like if you can't just watch the ball go through the basket, you got to see some of the other stuff that goes on. It's a fun group, and I just hope that their fans start turning out for them. You know what I'm saying? Like I just wish I could. I just wish that you'd see that gym as full for their girls' games as you did for the boys' games because they're every bit as fun to watch. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the boys team. They're a regional champion and they're a team that has grown a lot from the beginning of the season to now. It's just um I feel like across the board in the area, people just don't get behind girls basketball as much. And that's a shame because there's some fantastic programs in the area right now. So that's my little rant that I didn't even plan on going on, but there it was. And enjoy your girls' teams as much as your boys' teams, and make sure you get out and see them while they're at their peaks like this. Yeah, Neoga plays Christopher at the Endless Center tomorrow night. The fun thing for Neoga is that they don't have to go very far to play this, and Christopher's got to drive an hour and a half up here to play that game. It's kind of the inverse of last year against Goreville for Neoga, where Neoga had
Yeah.
come a long way, but Neoga brought their fans to that game. They had a tremendous fan presence in Casey Thursday night. Just unbelievable crowd support. They brought a couple of fan buses
Oh,
with the kids.
speaking of fan presence, I mean, just so because I'll forget later, Pinckneyville played their sectional final
Yeah,
against Columbia this week. Pinckneyville had maybe
sectional or regional final, right?
regional final. Maybe their sports boosters paid for a fan bus and student tickets.
Uh-huh.
Any student wanted to go, it was free. You just had to get to the bus.
Well, I really like that.
Now they're reaching out. I saw they're reaching out to a local business or two to sponsor money again. They want to get more fans. And I think that's neat. I like that idea
I
because
think
the
I think
price the IHSA because a sectional is $7 per
and
student.
the super section is $9. Okay,
Yeah,
if you prepay, $10 at the door, 9 if you prepay. Now listen, there are especially, and I'll get back to Neoga on this just because it's what I can relate to the most. It's a small town. There's a lot of people with not a lot of money, and a kid going to their parents to say, "I need $10 plus, maybe food money or
yeah.
whatever concessions."
Hospital for the
Yeah,
concession stand
like
or
some parents have to
I
think through
agree.
that,
I
and
agree.
and it's a
I
shame.
thought it was a novel idea, but I liked it.
No, it's great. I because it means something. Okay, like it doesn't decide games, but I
Yeah.
think what I saw last year at that super sectional, Goreville had a lead in the fourth quarter. Once Neoga started hitting some shots, the fans got louder. The Goreville kids made some big mistakes down the stretch, and I don't think you can completely discount the fact that there's like three-quarters of the gym going apeshit on their behalf. You know what I'm saying? Like, uh, high school kids pucker up a little bit in a situation like that, or they can,
Well,
and
sure.
and so I think that Neoga has to take full advantage of that tomorrow night. You don't have far to go, right? Like, there's no excuse not to show up to that game, even if it does cost quite a
Well,
bit.
and I think the thing, like, the white kids, they wouldn't need the assistance of all the money you make off the podcast. But other people, if you could get some financial backing, just say, kids, if you want to go, we can provide you with tickets.
Yeah, and
It's a great idea, especially if you get a business on involved. Maybe Mike Roy Construction, friend of the show, right there. Just saying.
he's Mike is already a diamond sponsor in the of the Neoga Booster Club. I just want to
Oh,
throw
I
that
thought
out.
maybe he wasn't for a podcast. You hadn't shared that information.
No, no, but he very supportive of the Neoga athletics already. But I do think, all kidding aside, that that's a great idea. You
Yeah,
know,
I thought it was a good idea when I saw it.
in
And
the
I don't know if it was Bobby Wagner's idea, Bobby's AD at Pinckneyville. I don't know if it was his idea, somebody else's. He put it out on his Twitter page. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to throw that out there to. And Mike Taylor's the athletic director at Neoga, and I want to give him a shout out, and possibly a guy I'd like to talk to about this kind of stuff too. He's done a fantastic job of getting the kids excited, organizing things, promoting the team on social media. Like, he really enjoys it, and you can tell. And
Tell
he
Taylor it was my idea when you pass it on.
I will do that. I don't know if it's too late to get it figured out
Hey, it's
for
never
Neoga.
too late. His response will be Mike who. All right. All right.
uh
Girls basketball, we're good. Monday night, you're doing the game with Greg. All right,
Matt
let's move to the boys' side of the platter.
Matt and I doing that game tomorrow night, as a matter
Oh,
of.
that's right. You didn't matter to it. Greg's got a meeting. Okay.
Yeah, Greg's got important newsman work to do.
Before we get to the boys' side, I have something I just saw on Twitter since I have my phone scrolling while we're doing this.
Uh-huh.
Jordan Walker hit his first home run as a Cardinal in spring training
Well,
game.
I saw that actually because somebody
Off
shared
Johnny Cueto, it looked like.
somebody shared Chip Carey's call of that.
Oh,
And I just
I know
want
you're
to
not a fan. You're
I
not a
want to
fan?
get this out there right now, Cardinals fans. I hope you really enjoy Chip Carey. I will enjoy never having to listen to Chip Carey again.
Well,
But yeah, yeah. What boys game you want to start with here? Which
let's start with the regionals. I don't think the regional semis is really. We don't need to touch on those. Let's just focus because we got three teams in the regional finals. Let's focus on those.
we could
Let's start with the one we did.
we can do that. I think we should at least talk about St. Anthony and North Clay a little bit.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, good
But
ball game. I listened to it. And it just
and this was a regional semifinal, by the way,
yeah,
at South
and
Central.
it just seemed like from listening to it, I wasn't really watching it. My wife was watching it. I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just seemed like it was a case where North Clay was just short one player. You know what I mean? They just needed more contribution throughout the game. They would hang, they would hang. They're tough kids. They play their asses off, but then pretty soon they're down 5. Then they're down 7. And then they get it to 10. And it's just, and I know they're probably not playing their best game, but it just seemed like they needed one more option to score. Because if you had a situation, and Logan gets the majority of the shots, but he's got one that doesn't go down, or Bose has a 3 that doesn't, it just seemed like every time they went 2 trips without scoring, St. Anthony took advantage of it and up the lead another 2 points. Maybe they're down four. No, St. Anthony doesn't score, no score. Then St. Anthony scores two, no score. Now they got the ball and up another 2 points, and it just felt like they were just, you know, hitting on seven cylinders instead of eight.
And then meanwhile, St. Anthony gets a great game off the bench from Ryan Schmidt. I was watching it on the Catch TV broadcast.
Yeah,
Doug
that's what I
does
was.
this
I was
game.
listening to those guys.
And it's funny because you could tell who's seen St. Anthony this year a little bit and who hasn't, because it was kind of blowing the guy's mind a little bit. This kid didn't start. He's hit 5 3-pointers. He didn't even start this game. And those of us who are more familiar understand that Ryan Schmidt's been doing this all season. He comes into the game and, and I think Cody will be the first to tell you, Cody Rink will be the first to tell you, I could start the kid, right? Like I wouldn't.
Well, and he even said in his post game, he gives starters minutes.
Yeah.
People get caught up in who's introduced. It's who's playing the more minutes, or maybe at crunch time. I'm afraid to tell Josh Zink that Ryan's dad and my wife are cousins because he may not like me anymore.
Ryan had some of his best games of the
19
year.
And what, 25?
Yeah.
Averaging.
Yeah, he's
averaging probably what, 22 against him?
I don't know what he's averaging against him. He's at like 8 points a game for the season. But yeah, against North Clay, he did only score 7 the first time. But yeah, when they played in the NTC tournament, he got 25. You're right, and then 19 in the semifinal.
Still averaged about 17 a game in the 3 games, even though he didn't play much the first time.
Yeah, he as I recall in that first game, he rebounded very well in that game. Actually, that was the thing that Greg and I talked about the most. But Ryan's a good ball player, and you're right. With the way St. Anthony plays and the rotation they have, you're right. Like, yeah, it's fun to be one of those 5 guys who gets their name called at the beginning, but it's about what your role is and what your contributions are, and
I'd rather be one of the 5 guys on the floor with a minute to go in the game.
And you talk about a rotation. Well, then they play Christ Our Rock in the championship game, and Christ Our Rock, a state ranked team. They've only lost 1 game that they were trying to win all season long, and they played basically the same 5 guys for 4 quarters, and
one kid got about 30 seconds.
St. Anthony just sort of outlasted them. I mean, St. Anthony was losing that
game. They out rebounded them. I think your crack statistician had it 30-17, 30-13. I think it was 30-13.
That sounds right.
And
I actually got the book here.
We talked about it at one point. I remember telling you the Weagles kid just looked out of gas. We talked about it beforehand. Luckily, we can say we kind of had a pretty good idea, because I feel like their lack of schedule bit them in the end.
Yeah.
I guess I should have gone on to check on Aaron Britton's website to see how many of their games were under 10 points this year.
I couldn't tell you. I mean,
Britton's website to tell you. You just look at it. But it's just.
They play in the Midland Trail. So, I mean, it is that, your conference schedule, it is what it is, right? But
sure, but we all have that. So you have to make your non-conference schedule something. And with shootouts galore, you can't get into a shootout. You can't reach out to someone and say, hey, next year we got a lot of good kids coming. We'd like to play in the shootout. Or,
yeah.
You didn't play your full slate of games. You had room to add games. Maybe, you know what? We'd like to move up a weight class and play X.
Yeah, I mean, and this is an unfair comparison because Teutopolis has a reputation across the state, and if they say they want to play somebody, almost anybody will try to make room for that game. But you look at what their girls and boys do. I mean, it feels like every Saturday they're going or got somebody coming in. Some some killer that that would be the best team on anyone else's schedule, and that's just like a normal weekend. Now I know that that's not fair because T-Town is T-Town, and plus they're
They're an
not.
independent, so they have to build a schedule.
But St. Anthony is in a conference, and
Mhm.
look at their non-conference. They play a 2A schedule outside of
Yep.
the National Trail
They
Conference.
play a pretty good Christmas tournament.
They do.
And we talked about that, Pleasant Plains, Oak Lawn, T-Town, Lutheran North. Those are their teams they played.
Yeah.
Lutheran North won a district. Okay. T-Town's won a regional. Pleasant Plains won a regional. Oak
Mm-hmm.
Lawns was out their best kid, um, who may have made noises this year had it not been for that injury. He had surgery, by the way, about a month ago. So you got to see it coming and you got to prep for it a little bit.
Yeah.
And you could tell as that game wore down, once they fell behind in that fourth quarter, they were a different team. I mean, they made one bucket when St. Anthony was up 33-30. The Weebles kid hit that three because we talked about it. Big possession. If they don't score, they're in trouble. And he hit a big three, and that was it. They didn't do much the rest of the game.
No,
And
no.
when they were trying to get shots, St. Anthony's defense, which had been pretty good, kind of tweaked up a hair, and they made it hard. And it was really guys just dribbling around. There wasn't a lot of sets. There were some ball screens, which St. Anthony was kind of just switching and jumping. And Bulldogs played a good game, other than 10 turnovers in the first.
The yeah, Crestar Rock. I'm looking at now. This doesn't. It does factor in St. Anthony. Their opponents' one loss record was their win percentage was just a touch under 47. So
So is that on Aaron's website?
yeah, this is from Aaron
Yeah,
Britton.
don't use Max Preps. Don't use
Yeah,
Max.
no, I'm not using Max Preps. This is from what Aaron Britton's got.
His friend of the show, Aaron Britton.
Yeah, well, we got lots of friends at this point, I like to think.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got some Midland Trail, and then they're also in something called the Gateway Metro Conference, which is just a few teams: Alton Marquette, Father McGivney, Maryville Christian, Metro East Lutheran, and Bunker Hill. Those last two I mentioned had pretty poor seasons. The rest of them were so, and Marquette was, had about a similar record to St. Anthony. But again, I will say this: I'll put St. Anthony's 12 losses against almost anyone else's, 6 losses, and say this is the team I'd take in come crunch time, which we just talked about. St. Anthony's strength of schedule very good. Somewhere on Aaron's spreadsheet here, I could even find that strength of
They
schedule.
were one of the best strength of schedules in 1A.
Yeah, I'll well, here I can tell you if I just scroll to the right place here, it's got that Altamont, St. Anthony, pretty good. Number one.
Number one?
That's what he's got right here.
Yeah. Well, that's based on the winning percentage of your opponents, and
Right.
it also factors in your opponent's opponents. So,
Yep.
yeah.
So and Crestar Rock got hurt on its uh let's see, they're at 140. That's where he had them at. And so it's and you look at the rest of the National Trail Conference. I mean, North Clay's strength of schedule is 4. And this is like all 1A teams in the state, right? Like that's where that ranking is. So they played a couple of NTC and Altamont was 30, Altamont was 30. So, and that's a lot of that is a byproduct of the fact that the NTC was just good, right? Like when you play good teams in your conference, then your strength of schedule is going to obviously be bumped up a little bit. So St. Anthony moves on. They move on to that Altamont sectional. Altamont also moved on. Altamont didn't really have too tough a time of it. In fact, I think Altamont probably got as far as
All right, Whitey,
yeah,
not counting the Soundoval game or the St. Anthony game, 3 games within a 10-point spread.
Yeah, they just didn't play very many tight games. And so and and there is something to be said for knowing how to react in those situations, right? Like knowing how to keep your composure, not panicking, not sniping at your own teammates a little bit. There was definitely some, and I don't see them, so maybe that's just how they do their. Maybe that's just how they interact with each other. But there were definitely a few moments where there were some frustrations on the floor. And to be fair, again, like that could just be how they are, and everybody's used to it, and nobody takes offense to it. But I don't know. It's just telling you what I saw, what we noticed when we were broadcasting the game. So, Altamont. They, they didn't. The closest game they played in their regional at Nokomis was actually the semifinal against Carlisle. Beat them by 14, and then beat Nokomis by 22 points in the championship game. They also had to play Mulberry Grove in a quarterfinal because there were so many teams in that regional. But I think we talked about Altamont being a team to beat, right? And they certainly didn't do anything to change my opinion in that regional. They won the games handily, beat teams the way they're supposed to, and they move on to their own sectional.
And that'll be nice. It's in a nice facility. You got to consider them the favorite, even though I know Tuscola beat them.
Yes,
With that being said, and I think Tuscola hit an ungodly amount of threes that game or something.
that's the story. Yes, that's what
Yeah,
I get
but
from you.
it'll be interesting. I mean, Altamont Casey, they've played. Um, I know I talked to Aaron Britton. He felt like Altamont kind of got the short end of the stick because he felt like Casey should have been the overall one. And then you had Casey getting beat by Windsor Stew and Tuscola. So after the fact, so it'll be interesting. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to, if you're going to get out, you got to beat somebody.
Yep.
Um, so you got, St. Anthony and Tuscola.
Yeah. By the way, Tuesday, in I was getting this wrong on the radio Friday night, but they're playing their semifinals on two different nights. Altamont and Casey play Tuesday, and then Tuscola and St. Anthony play Wednesday. Those are the
Right.
semifinals, Friday championship. So I don't I don't
And
know.
St. Anthony, I talked to Cody briefly. It sounded like Tuscola plays a lot of man defense. So, that's they got good. I mean, they got some kids that can play. So, but again, it goes back to St. Anthony's been through the ringer, man.
Well,
They
and
played a lot of people.
and okay, so I still you would probably agree that a good hard nosed well executed man to man defense is tough to play against as anything, right? Like if they can.
Oh yeah,
But I will say that St. Anthony would probably be relieved just to not have to try to figure out, because Cody talked about what the Christ Our Rock half court zone looked like, and he said it's just weird. It's just hard, like it's just difficult to play against because you're not exactly sure what they're doing, I guess.
well, because of their length, and they showed a 1-3-1, then they showed a 1-2-2, then they showed a was it a 2-1-2, was it a 3-2? I mean, they threw a lot of different, some different looks per se. But with that being said, um, it was the reason it gave St. Anthony problems was their length. It kind of made St. Anthony not make crisp passes, and when they would try to penetrate or do some things, some guys were able to get their hands, and then
Yeah. With
it
the
was their length that was the
and,
problem.
and
You're not going to see that length again.
I should not have stopped talking about that game with Christ Our Rock without talking about Colin Westendorf. He scored 20 points for God's sake. They only scored
Had a
40
nice ball
points in
game.
the game, and he scored half of them. And you talk about attacking, getting in the paint. Westendorf was the one kid who was able to get in there, make some things happen, whether it's making layups or getting to the free throw line. He took that game over at times. I mean, they're obviously anytime someone scores half your points, this is sort of an obvious thing to say, but I'll say it anyway. They would have been in big trouble without him.
Right. No, and it was with the 1-2-2. when because they played 1-2-2 about a third of the game or more, maybe half the game. I think there, whether it was Colin, whether it was Griffin Sahi, whoever was playing, getting in the middle of the floor, getting touches. I mean, all you had to do is turn shoot 15, 12 footers all day. And you could have just like shooting
Mhm.
fish in a barrel. And then they had the baseline cutter a lot of times. Max Koenig, he got one block, then he missed one. He probably would like to get back. And it was
Mhm.
just a case where we talked about during the game. You get into the middle of that, it's wide open, and Westendorf started getting into the middle, going to the hole, hitting a couple dipsy do layups, and yeah, when they got the lead, different team. Hey, Whitey,
Yeah.
somebody told you what the score was going to be for the at
Well,
halftime.
yeah, we better touch on this too. We better touch on this.
I may go buy a lottery ticket today.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I will say this. Mike and I broadcast that game on 97.9, and at halftime during one of the commercial breaks, Mike says to me, he's like, St. Anthony had 10 turnovers in that first half. They're not going to have that many in the second half, and they're going to win by 6. And at that point, what were they losing by at halftime? It
They were
was
down three at the half, I think. Wasn't it 22-19 or something?
yeah, and by God, they won 40-34. So and they only turned it over 2 or 3 times in the second half.
Yeah.
So,
No, they took care of it.
mm-hmm. Yep.
And the defensive pressure got a little intense late, and they handled it pretty good. I mean, there was
Yeah.
a couple moments. I think Ryan Schmidt got fouled one time, and Christ Our Rock fans thought he was pushing off a little bit, so it got a little tense there.
But fans and players are not the only ones who might not be used to a game being tight and competitive, because fans might not necessarily know how to react. Just like with the Neoga Tuscola girls games, we were sitting amongst Tuscola fans, and Tuscola plays a physical brand of defense. Okay. And they basically play we're going to grab you every time, because they can't call it every time. And so when they do call it, then people get a little frustrated. And I think that fans just get used to seeing a certain thing. And then during this time of year, you get a crew that just doesn't call games the same way as what you're used to. It could certainly be frustrating.
Well, sure can.
But Crest Rock, I think for those folks, it was more just, wow, we're not blowing these guys out. This is not what we're used to. We're ranked, they're not. Why aren't we winning this game by more? And then by the time the fourth quarter rolled around, why aren't we winning it at all? And I mean, you look at the semifinals in this, Altamont, Casey, Tuscola, St. Anthony. Do you think, given the way that Altamont Tuscola game went, do you think Altamont would have rather just played them again right away, or do you think Altamont's glad that they're on the other side of the bracket, knowing that there's a St. Anthony team they've already beaten twice that might be able to just take care of that Tuscola team for them, possibly? I mean,
Yeah.
do you think it matters? Does it really matter? Does it actually matter? Is that just something that we're talking about? And like, as a player and a coach, you're just like, I'll play whoever's in front of me, and we're in a
Well,
sense,
you
who
can't
cares?
start looking at, do we want to play team A or team B? Because you got to worry about the one you're playing.
Right, right.
So I've seen people think, well, this game we're going to win this one, so we got no. And let's say it becomes an Altamont St. Anthony final. Let's just say it if that happens.
Uh-huh.
Wow, Altamont's won 2 games by 19 or 20 points.
Pretty handily.
Uh,
Who knows?
Call Lawrence Carey about that. I think it was 79 when St. Anthony went to state. They'd taken it on the chin by 20 and maybe 30 2 times during the regular season and hung the regional crown.
Yeah.
You always hear, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. But then you think, oh my God, we've beat them handily twice. It's not, no, it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think
But Altamont is just, I
they're
mean,
good and they're
yeah.
healthy. Well, I think they're healthy. It sounds like they got most people back. But again, it all boils down to a given night. Ball going in the hole, not going in the hole, turnover here.
Yeah.
Break down defensively there, whistle here, whistle there. Who knows?
Well,
Gonna be a good sectional in a good
yes.
venue.
Yes. Uh, that is for sure. Fantastic, fantastic gym at Altamont, and you got Casey coming in there. Casey plays in a great gym themselves. That's another thing that I didn't mention
Yeah,
when
unless you're sitting behind the post.
well, yeah, but still, I don't know. Great atmosphere in that building.
Now, you want to see a good building, another good building. The two ain't going to be at Newton. I
Yes,
love that facility.
yes, that's where T Town's going to play, and you talk about Altamont didn't necessarily get pushed real hard in their regional. Well, T Town was able to win regional games by 33 and 19 points over Shelbyville and Robinson to move
I saw the
on.
Shelbyville game. Uh, Shoes look pretty good. They just they were very businesslike, I guess is the way to put that. They just came out and did what they had to do. Shelbyville hung around early, and then it just, it wasn't good. And then I've talked to people who saw the Robinson game. Um, Maybe Robinson scored 12 points in the middle two quarters. I know Shoes were up 20 going to the fourth, ended up winning 19. Um, this it was just kind of taking care of business. You can't take it for granted, and I know Chet and the kids don't take it for granted. Um, but when you've got a team you've already beaten once pretty handily, you got to play them again. You can't take, when I saw the first quarter score was a 2-point game, I thought, but no, T Town really did a good job. It sounded like defensively second and third quarter, and good for them. Uh, when you survived, and that's the word to put it, when you survived their schedule,
Mm-hmm.
now you're going to turn around and play Alton Marquette. Pretty sure they played Marquette last year in the sectional floor, Whitey. I mean, I don't know if that's the game I did on the radio. I did one of their sectional games on the radio last year.
Give me a second, I'll tell you.
Uh, I think they played Mount Carmel and maybe Marquette in the final.
Yeah, they played well, reverse that. They played
Okay.
Marquette in the semifinal, beat them by 8 points, and then they beat Mount Carmel by 21 in the final.
Yeah, they came out against Mount Carmel and hit like 100 threes, man. It was,
And
oh my.
but then I think for T Town, you just love to get back to the super, if nothing else, just to get the taste out of your mouth from the way the one went last year, because that was just
Well, and you bring that, gosh, I sat through four of those on the bench, just painful, you know,
well, it always hurts to lose
kill
a
me
super sectional.
for the kids, you know, the, the first one against Pittsfield, you know, Pittsfield had a really nice player, and the kid who could guard him was sitting on the bench with a torn ACL, and
Yeah.
that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
But that team was so banged up, still had a lead, and missed front end to two or three free throws in the last maybe minute, and got beat at the buzzer, and then turned around and played Uni High that listed them at 6'10", 6'10", 6'7", 6'7", and all I remember is the Big Ten MVP, Keita Bates Diop, and John Meddy, all 6 feet, 1/4 inch center for the Shoes in a foot race for a loose ball. And John caught him and then did a baseball slide because Diop wanted to bend over. He wasn't going to get on the floor. Johnny does a baseball slide, then flips it over his shoulder to another shoe running down the floor too, hustling while the other Uni High kids are dogging it for a layup, and had a big lead there. And then Keita Bates Diop played like a Big Ten MVP that he eventually became, and got beat. Had a great look. Coach Fairbacher drew a play I'd never seen before. We got a great look at the buzzer, wide open, and it just rolled off the dang
I was
rim.
there.
And
UIX.
then the next one played Harrisburg, and I I don't know if we could have beat Harrisburg that night. We'd had to play a perfect game. Um, the Nashville one probably hurt the most. We just didn't shoot it well, and we worked real hard on keeping Green Bay Packer Royce Newman off the glass, and the other big kid they had off the glass. And their gosh dang, their guards just dribbled to the baseline and kept getting the and ones, and that one hurt. And then I know Jason Hanson got beat maybe by Breeze Central, and then Chet, the Nashville thing last year, and then people were like, "Oh, T-Town couldn't score 20 points." Well, Nashville just put the clamps on everybody in one state tournament. So
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, you want him to get back. Yeah, you want to see him finally, get back to where Coach Crawford had him a few times. They got the pieces. It's just they got to play well, and you got to
Yeah.
get lucky.
They got I mean, I look at this sectional. I'm not gonna say that I know a lot about any of these teams. I just know that Teutopolis is awfully good. They play Alton Marquette Wednesday, the Tuesday games between Greenville and Lawrenceville. I don't know, I don't from my perspective, it looks winnable, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, I would say, I guess on paper, you'd have to say of the four teams, they would be considered a favorite, but you don't play on paper.
No.
Lawrenceville, Coach Randy Bishop, good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
He feels he owes T-Town one back from '86 at Newton, by the way, is where that happened. I'll probably see Bishop over there when I'm doing the game Wednesday. I'll say, Randy, remember when you were here about 40 years ago? He'll just he'll gripe at me. Greenville, have no idea what they've got going. Coach Jackson, he used to be at St. Elmo and then at Vandalia. He's got a
Uh-huh.
son playing with him. I do know that.
Now, I will say this: we've talked about the strength of schedule stuff a little bit already. In 2A, T-Town 9, Alton Marquette is 31, but then those other two teams, Greenville and Lawrenceville, way well into the hundreds. So the
Right.
shoes
But
shoes have certainly pushed
again, on
themselves
paper,
this year. You know,
they just got to do a good job of playing. You can't all of a sudden have a night where guys can't score. James Nieberg, he's kind of been averaging probably the last 3 or 4 games right around probably 17 points a game.
more than that, actually, incredibly consistent. If you go
Yeah,
back
he's
to those
right
last
around
two regular,
17 to 20. 20's is high.
you go back to that last game, the last two regular season games, his last 4 games. Okay, at Mattoon 19, Alney 20, Shelbyville 19, Robinson 19. So he's right
And
there.
that's your quote third option.
I mean, he is. He's their third leading scorer by averages. But Brendan Nieberge's been in double figures all those games. And actually, aside from Caleb Seamer getting 19 at Mattoon, he's been scoring wise pretty quiet. 8, 9, and 11 the last 3 games.
Caleb looks just a little tired.
But you
I
know
mean,
what?
he's he
A kid,
it's he busts his butt up and down the floor. He has to bang inside all the time.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
I don't know what
I
the rebounding
understand.
numbers are from those
I
games.
understand, but he just a couple games. I remember back in the day, Brett Meddy really having heavy legs at the end of the year, and I don't know if that's where Caleb is, but you know he's very capable of coming out and hanging 20
Sure.
something on somebody.
And again, these are just point numbers, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
there's he's a big guy, and defensively, he's just his presence on the floor is going to have a positive effect.
And he's in spite of his father, he's a pretty smart player.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I don't know his dad, so I'm not going to pile on there, but yeah,
I'll hear about that. That's okay.
he's there are many facets to the game that he positively affects, and he doesn't
Yeah.
have to score more than 10 points to still have
Oh
been
yeah.
a huge difference maker. So they have and again, like the likes of Garrett Gaddis and Joey Nieberge, big scores every night, but they can have a game for
Oh
you.
yeah, they're very, very capable. And I'll tell you, Mitch Custer's starting to play a little better. Blummer and Repke have played well,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't look to get up as many shot attempts as they did earlier in the year. And I
Yeah.
think Sam understanding the role that my job's to guard the heck out of somebody while I'm here, be a total pain in the ass, and guard the heck out of them. And if I can come up with something, great. Um, but you got to give them credit for understanding, evolving with their role. So that's good. So yeah, it should be good. Another
Yeah,
thing we
that's
got to
it.
touch on, Whitey. I'm looking at my sheet here. I think you owe me lunch.
Yeah, we picked regional winners, and you did better than I did.
I was 7 out of 8. The only one I missed was the Lawrenceville regional. I picked Newton over Lawrenceville, and then Mount Carmel beat Newton. So that was my only loser.
Yeah, I got. I don't know. I didn't do well
Do
at
I
all, actually.
do I need to call the Firefly and get up and set a table up or something? Or
Well, I don't know about Firefly.
oh, I didn't know if we set parameters.
I was thinking
Oh,
more like I was
something
thinking
else I need to touch on.
more like Little Caesars, maybe. Something like that.
Um, Christmas tournament.
Yeah.
Five, well, 4 regional champs.
Right.
And then Lutheran North won a district, which is the equivalent of a regional in Missouri. So really, 5
Mhm.
regional champs. I've actually been texting friend of the show, Aaron Britton, to see where we rank Christmas tournament wise, having 5 hardware winners. Because last year we had 9 teams of our 16 playing for a regional final, which I think only one tournament had more.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And Lincoln Way East, did you see the video of that one?
No.
Down 2, 1.7 to go in the game. They ran the old Valparaiso play.
Okay.
And I want to say, is it Caden Ross?
Yeah, I got.
Bang, 3 to win it. Now, little controversy. I've seen a picture, and the ball, you're from behind, and you can't tell if it's left his hand or not. It's really close, but high school refs don't have the video
Yeah,
availability.
there's no review capability. You're just doing.
And I've seen a couple different videos of it, and the one official who's on the opposite side of the benches, I mean, as soon as the shot goes up, he's got his hand up, and then he's here, here. And the officials talked for about 2 seconds and then left the floor. Lincoln Way kids went batshit crazy, man. They're dogpiling. I would be worried when that Yanikowski kid had to jump on somebody. They're a big football player who's
I remember
one of the
him.
top
He's fun.
linemen in the country.
He's
Going to be
fun.
he's a junior. He had to jump on somebody.
I
And
will.
George Bellevue and those guys had to jump on somebody. I'm just telling you.
I
I
have.
wouldn't have wanted been at the bottom of that pile.
I haven't seen any of the video or photos you talk about, but I will say this: that anytime a thing like this happens, people can always point to this picture or this video, and no
Right.
matter what their point of view is, say there's your conclusive evidence, and it's it is what it is. I mean, it's a high
Second
school.
regional in school history.
Yeah, it's just a
Now you
little.
got to remember what they play, the
Yeah, it's a little different up
competition
there.
they have to be in.
Yeah.
So now they're sectional. Tuesday or Wednesday, they play Joliet West. Jeremy Fears, who's already committed to going to Michigan State, and he's in everything I've seen is a top 5 finalist for Mr. Basketball.
That
And
Hargroves
he's a
girl,
McDonald's All American. He's going to the McDonald's game.
that Hargrove girl plays for Christopher. I don't think she hasn't committed anything yet, but my understanding is that she's gotten some pretty serious offers. I heard Indiana was really into her as a
Really?
matter of fact.
Yeah,
So
their women's program is number 2 in the country.
well, and they sell out their arena for games too, which is no
Yes,
small thing.
trust me. I've been there when they've sold out for men's games. It's noisy,
Yeah, yeah. So
and
yeah, I
that's
feel
good for
like
them.
I don't
But
know.
yeah, Lincoln Way East. Shout out to them, Coach Columbus, huge. And I got to say, at the end of the season, they did a little thing. Their seniors and the highlight of the year. Three of their seniors mentioned the Christmas tournament as the highlight of the year. I messaged Georgia Bellevue and I said, hey, anytime you eat 10 pork burgers after a game, it ought to be the highlight of something. This man would just stuff food in his bag to head back when they would leave after the championship game. I know he had I know he had 10 pork burgers.
That's the team that went to Joe's and ate at some point too, right?
Yeah, went to Joe's, took the picture under the little thing. That reminds me, I got to get something into the city of Effingham. I hope I have
Uh,
time.
so yeah, we got we
And
got
shout out to Pleasant Plains, Kyle Weber. He's our other one. Uh, Pleasant Plains won. Lutheran North Coach Spiller, and then obviously Cody and Chet. So we got 5 still alive. And trust me, the tournament, we follow that stuff. That's awesome. I felt sorry for Oaklawn. They got beat by Kenwood, number I think 3 team in 4A. They're pretty high.
yeah. So I think we can put a bow on the high school stuff. We will, we'll talk about those. Obviously, we'll hit on the Neoga girls some more next week, and of course the boys teams. However, that all shakes out, we'll continue to talk about that. I feel like I could do an entire show just on the Neoga girls, and I know that not everybody wants that, but I pay so much attention to it. I feel like I never say enough, but we'll talk about them again next week. And
I have a couple things I got to bring up, Whitey.
okay, well, here we go.
St. Louis University Billikens baseball game the other day.
Okay.
On the mound, Dawson Smith.
Okay.
Catching, Cody Jansen.
All right.
That's a D1 battery from this area, which
Mhm.
has never happened before.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
alone they're both 2 kids from T-Town.
Yeah.
And I think we'll probably maybe talk a little bit more some of our college kids because we got a lot of kids playing baseball places. Maybe touch on that a little bit more when we do our spring stuff. But I
Sure.
saw that the other day, and Dawson pitched again. His second game he pitched, and they beat Minnesota. I don't know if he got the win, but he was the starting pitcher in the game they won. And Cody is caught, DH'd, and played first. So, and I know we got kids at Lakeland, kids at Milliken. We got a lot. Oh, and that Jordan Walker home run, that was his first at bat as a Cardinal, also. So,
Spring training.
I know. And then the Hoosiers. I was not expecting that, Whitey. I
Yeah. I
talked to
mean,
a friend
listen.
who may have put some money on FanDuel, and I said, if I was going to do that, I wouldn't. It'd be tough to not pick Purdue at Purdue. Well, the spread is 6.5. They're begging you to take Purdue. Yeah, they knew how to make money.
Listen, I don't want to hand it to Indiana, but I have to. I mean, I don't know what else you say. It's impressive. They seem to be putting it together. You know what I'm saying?
They're in a pretty good spot to get the double bye.
Yeah.
Because especially with Illinois losing, because there was a lot of teams now. I don't know if that gives Indiana 12 wins in the conference or 11. God, they got the staring machine and Michigan to finish the season.
Yeah. Yeah. Fran McCaffrey is a clown.
I understood it. I
Indiana,
kept thinking, what?
he's a clown.
I saw a high school coach once call a timeout in crunch time of a game. Okay. Inside 30 seconds of either regulation or overtime, and spend the whole time out arguing a call, never once said a word in his huddle, called the second time out, and spent 40 seconds still arguing. And that's what Fran McCafferty. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then I get the official, and attaboy, he at least took a step forward and said, I kept waiting on somebody to say go and they were going to draw or something. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, Indiana, Maryland, and Northwestern all 11-7, Purdue's 13-5 at the top. So those 3 teams are all
Indiana, Maryland, Northwestern are 11-7, and what's Purdue?
13-5.
Okay,
And
so
then Northwestern just coughed one up against Illinois earlier in the week.
who's Northwestern got? Did they play today, or they got two more to go?
Northwestern played today already. Maryland beat them by 16.
Ooh,
So Northwestern got into the top 25 and then laid a couple eggs.
so Northwestern, Indiana, and Maryland right now are quote 2, 3, and 4,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
then one win back. You have
Michigan's like a halfback. Maybe they play later on today. Uh, Michigan's Michigan is playing Wisconsin. It's coming down to the wire as we speak. They're down a point with 8 seconds to go.
come on whiskey,
And so yeah, and then if Michigan loses, then they'd be 10-8 with Illinois and Iowa. So it's just a
and that's
crazy.
who Indiana play. Indiana's got Iowa and Michigan. They can't two losses, and Indiana's out of the double bye picture.
Yeah, you're not gonna know anything till it's all said and
I'm going
done.
to be in Bloomington for that Sunday, next Sunday when they play Michigan. But I looked at ticket prices, and Mrs. Wilson, I said, "Hey, what do you think?" And she didn't even think about it. She just said no.
Well,
I could have got courtside, probably right by the TV people, for about $2,200, Whitey. That
I
was
gotta
for
tell you,
one. I just had Ann stay at Jess's apartment, and I'd just gone.
I gotta feel like there's probably better ways to spend that money, but
Yeah, I will
that's just
probably go to Yogi's and have food and maybe an adult beverage and watch the game.
Wisconsin's gonna win that one, it would appear.
Way to go, whiskey.
So there you go. There you go.
Which you know what? That gives Wisconsin a chance now. They're on the bubble. Big Ten could have 9 or 10 teams in. Whitey, think about that.
Yeah, 9 or 10 teams in, and how many of them do I feel like are going to do anything?
But you know what? Who you gonna put in there in their place? I mean, it's not like they're earning it. Oh, Caitlin Clark hit an unreal three at the buzzer. Iowa beat Indiana at wherever they played today, Iowa or Indiana. I think it was at Iowa.
Caitlin Clark is a great shooter. I'm not a real big fan of her
No,
presence on the court.
no, she's got a little flopper in her.
She's and she
Speaking of flopper,
complains too much complaining, too much
speaking of
looking at the
flopper,
officials and going like this.
Matthew Meyer at Illinois, that game with North or whoever their last game was at home when he the 27 dribble, the fadeaway three, and then he turns his body and falls like he'd been shot, and they fouled, and they didn't even touch him. And this is coming from Illinois fans complaining.
Mm.
Not me. They were complaining to me about it.
Well, I think Illinois fans are over it with a number of the guys that they see regularly. I mean, I'm not.
Hey, I know you're an Illinois fan. You didn't get a Sky Clark jersey, did you?
No, I
Or you
don't.
didn't get the
Oh wow!
Moran, the French kid?
Michigan apparently tied it at the buzzer to send it to overtime.
Why? You don't do that to me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not going to keep giving play by play on this game though. Anybody who
All right.
actually cares can just watch it. And plus, we've been going for like an hour and 15 minutes, so
All
maybe we
right.
should call it a week. I
I
guess.
think that's everything I got. I mentioned the baseball guys. Oh, yeah. Coaches, high school coaches shouldn't go on Twitter complaining after the season's over.
Yeah,
Just not a
yeah.
good optics. Not a good optics.
That's and that's
That's what I'm going to leave it there.
yeah. We
Never
won't get
met
it.
the man.
This is not anybody. This is not anybody in our area.
Not a
Just to
friend
be
of the
clear,
show.
not a
Probably.
friend
I
of the
don't
show.
know.
But
I know. I personally know the coach who's on the other side of the game, and I don't know. I may see him somewhere and ask him about it. But yeah, it's just not. It just doesn't resonate well. I don't care how right you are. You still come off as whiny.
yeah, it's just your people. Listen, when you do a thing like that, there's going to be some people who see it and commiserate with you, but mostly people are just going to look at it and
And bring back games when maybe they felt you got all the calls and you
sure,
didn't say, "Oh, we should have,"
they're just going to use it
maybe we should
against
have
you.
forfeited.
You could be as right. You could be as right as the day is long,
Right as rain, and
and
still
it doesn't
doesn't look
matter.
good.
It doesn't
No,
matter. It's not going to work out for you. So just don't. Just don't. part of
So why do they get to listen to us this week? You're doing Monday Super, and
Monday
then you're
Super.
doing Wednesday at
That
Altamont.
the St. Anthony Tuscola game. I'm
Yeah.
interested to get a look at this Tuscola team, and of course, St. Anthony they ran Tuscola last year, right? Like in the at the is that right?
Yeah, that's when the Quinn kid went off on them.
That was a tough
And
game.
Anthony had the game won, didn't finish.
So they get a chance for and that was at the Inlow Center too. So they get a chance to go up against that team again. Maybe get a little vengeance for their girls team too, since Tuscola knocked out the
Well,
girls team.
girls game hell, vengeance for losing last year in the section.
Sure. That Tuscola girls team too. I mean, they lost 2 games all year long, both of them to NTC teams. And I just want to throw that out there too. If anybody's,
Good girls conference this year.
yeah,
Pretty good boys conference too.
yeah, enjoy it. People talk about enjoying your individual program when it's having an upswing, like in the area too. You know, I mean, we've really enjoyed watching the
Not a
team.
bad baseball conference either. Not a bad softball conference.
No.
I'm going back to our original guest of the show when we had Bill Murray on the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Original guest. And he said, the fun about sports in our area is someone goes, makes some type of a run every year. And here we've got a girls team in the Elite Eight,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got 3 boys teams in the final 32.
Mm-hmm. And you gotta just playing the odds, you know. You think you get
And I know people cuss me when I say this, but you got to support them. I remember when I was a first year coach at St. Anthony and I went up to Champaign and I was hoping Bob Zeruzen and the Wooden Shoes would keep winning, contrary to popular belief when 07 when we got beat. T-Town students were stunned when they saw my coaching staff. We were actually sitting pretty close to their student section that we were applauding for them against Nashville. Hey,
you
got to
know
support the locals.
yeah, you know each other, right? Like, I mean, I'm
Oh,
sure
yeah,
there are exceptions, but
sure there are, and some people wouldn't. But I mean, we were openly cheering for them. Heck yes, I want them to beat Nashville.
sure, why wouldn't you? That's yeah, I think that's a good ending place.
Yep,
We should
good
wrap
place
it
to
up.
wrap it.
We'll have more to talk about and hopefully, I mean, the girls' season ends this week no matter what. So
Yep.
we'll be able to put a bow on that next week. But then
Hopefully, we still got boys' seasons going.
hopefully we'll have a couple. The most it could be is 2, and hopefully we do have 2 left
Love
playing.
to have a double header at Carbondale.
That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. Let's keep our fingers crossed for it. And until then, we'll sign off. You have a
All
good
right.
week.